Good evening, everyone. Welcome to GMS Weekend Late Night Live Chat. Okay, today is a Sunday. A lot of things have happened over the week. And well, I'm extremely busy with my People's Power Party uh, anniversary. Nice anniversary uh, dinner. Okay. Well, we have a very young party compared to most of the party in Singapore, right? And we chose to celebrate our ninth anniversary during the month of August because August is a very special month for Singapore. Why? We gained independence 59 years ago, right? From Malaysia, actually, not really from the British colonial rule, because we broke away from the Malaya, the federal state of Malaya. Excuse me. Right. So we have actually a pledge, national pledge, amongst the flag that we have. We created our pledge, our uh, symbols of our country, and democracy is one of the very important pillars of a republic, right? And we created a pledge. Well, this pledge, after I think 3 decades or so, People's Power Party, no, People's Action Party itself actually came and say that there's a highfalutin ideas in the pledge that may not be accomplished. Is rather set for that to happen. Okay, basically it means that they don't even believe in what they say. Okay, or what they actually uh, wanted for Singapore. Right, our national pledge. We, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves as one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion, to build a democratic society based on justice and equality so as to achieve happiness, prosperity, and progress for our nation, right? Regardless of race, language, or religion. To build a democratic society, very important pillars of our vision for our country. Not only PAP's vision, it's Singaporeans' vision for ourselves and our future generation. And of course, we want justice and equality. Equality can mean a lot of things, but it's not defined here. But over the years, PAP start to change or start to tweak the concept of equality. Of course, everyone want a happiness in life. Right? In religious term, happiness is everything. 您俾送就好，您be happy 就好, right? And prosperity and progress for Singapore. Right? Why I want to talk about this? Because the People's Power Party is a party that built our foundation ideology based on democracy and the kind of democracy that we envision for Singapore. It's not just about separation of powers, of 3 powers, but 5 powers. It's just not about parliamentary democracy, but also the democracy embedded within the institution among the civil service. That means the ministries. They are supposed to have a proper checks and balances within themselves. And that's what we believe in. Right. Among so many parties, political parties in Singapore, right? Our vision is always to build a democratic society And although we are young, we are trying to have celebrate our 9th anniversary this year, very young party, but we are actually having that vision because we feel that Singapore under PAP's rule have deviated from the path of democracy. The amount of amendments they have made to our constitution, the amount of amendments they have made, right, on the laws and rules that slowly turning Singapore into a police state, giving the police and the ruling party enormous amount of power, right, actually move Singapore in the reverse direction from democracy, right? And that is what we are resisting. They have changed the rules. They have enacted new laws, the POFMA laws, which, in my view, they have abused it. They weaponize it against not only politicians like me, or like Dr. Chee, right, or like Mr. Leong Man Wai, but almost every other Singaporeans who have voiced criticism against their policies, which happens to go viral. Anything that went viral, they actually affect their power base. Right? They view it as detrimental or undermine the government. Now, they are treating themselves, the ruling party, as the government. They are just only the ruling party. The government is bigger than ruling party, right? And anything that we say that undermine their leadership or so-called undermine their party policy direction, not necessarily the country, not necessarily the national security, right? The POFMA. That is what we are seeing right now. There's no single doubt in me that they are weaponizing it through and through, just to preserve the monopoly of power or the attempt to have a stranglehold on the power when they are actually not performing according to the great amount of salaries they are taking, right? Mediocre, in my view. Okay, let me go through this. But before that, right, I was invited to the SDP, Singapore Democratic Party's, for the 4th anniversary, right? And the Singapore Democratic Party itself is also, right, working very hard towards to build a democratic society or to build a progressive democracy for Singapore. Right? We are actually on the same path. Right? I've listened to both the gentlemen who are leading, right? Dr. Chee Soon Juan and Professor Paul Tambaya, right? Speeches during their anniversary yesterday. Right? What strikes me deep heart is that if anyone is to say that only the PAPs are patriotic, right, and opposition are troublemakers, I tell you, you can try to be the troublemakers like us. I tell you, we are the patriotic people. Why? There's one small phrases from Dr. Chee's speech that actually strikes me. Right? He says, "I would rather stay poor, but with my freedom, my spirit of freedom, than to lose my democratic rights." Right? What it means, Dr. Chee has spent 30 years in politics, more than 30 years. And he's my Lao Qinpei in that sense. Right? Now, when I was in the National University of Singapore, he was already a lecturer, right, teaching psychology. Unfortunately, I didn't take his course. Okay, I didn't take psychology. I nearly took psychology, right? Nearly, but I have a very wide interest. But I can only take three main core subjects, and that's philosophy, statistics, and economics. I took philosophy instead of psychology, but both philosophy and the psychology I have interest, but I have even more interest in economics. Statistics is something that I view is necessary, right, at that point of time to go with economics. So I didn't choose psychology, right? But among the art students back then, we already hear about Dr. Chee. Right? The students were talking about him. Those those who took psychology, right? Says well, he's a charismatic and an impressive lecturer, right? They talk sense and very critical, right? Etc. Etc. Back then, I didn't know he joined SDP back then. But it's only when after the 1991 election, which I first got my experience to watch the rally, the political rally at Potong Pasir, where Mr. Tham Shih Tong gave his rally speech, right? And SDP won 4 seats, 3 seats actually, right? And this was my part of my awakening process, right? And the Dr. Chee's saga with Dr. Vasu accusing him of misusing funds and all that, taxi fares and all that. No, look. Well, Dr. Chee is a lecturer in the NUS. What is a few tens dollars of postage and taxi fares? Right? I do not know. Okay? And he was actually sacked, right, from NUS because of that. And the smearing goes on when Mr. Cham left SDP. Okay? So all his life he has been smeared quite heavily. Okay? But he persevered. I think most people, when you face such tremendous pressure in and out, from within and outside, you would have given up. Okay? No. But he lost his job and didn't have any jobs thereafter, meaningful jobs, right, in Singapore. But he continued for the next 30 years. Of course, he has very strong supporters from all around, right? But that is not enough to give him a comfortable, so-called comfortable lifestyle, right? He sold his landed properties. I think so, if I'm not wrong. Live with his family in a 3-room flat that I know in Toa Payoh, you know. And his wife May is actually a PhD also. Also can't gain, I don't think gain any meaningful employment because of the relationship. But I have to give it to me. Right? She is the tough lady behind Dr. Chee. And of course, his children have persevered. Among the tremendous pressure and stress from the surrounding, whether it's from the students, principals, or teachers. That is the price of being a fighter in Singapore context. Beside Mr. J.B.J. Jeyaretnam, I think Dr. Chee have suffered and made a great sacrifice. But the power of the media, the power of the PAP is great, enormous. In political terms, with all sympathies, I have full sympathies for Dr. Chee. I understand what he have went through, because I went through 50% of what he have went through, not the full, right? Not the full, right? Because in order to be in politics, you make a lot of sacrifices of your life, of your time. Okay, it's almost impossible to get a proper professional jobs or any jobs while you want to focus on policy analysis studies or just focus on political organization. Something have to give. And Dr. Chee have chose the path, the very difficult path, right? I'm fortunate that I didn't went through the worst like he and Mr. Jeyaretnam have went through. But we use our life, our time, just for the common goal. When he talk about democracy, right, trying to build a democratic society, and that is actually in our pledge, right? Democratic society, to fulfill that vision. And you need people with conviction and commitment to do that. He put it up to push it on. It's not easy. They have done it for 30 years. It's not easy at all. I know, because I spent 20 years, 20 plus years. It's really not easy. I wanted to give up, really, right? Because it's a thankless job, really thankless job. Especially when we are actually beyond the curve. Our ideas, our vision, the way that we look at problems, and to envisage problems before it comes, and try to tell voters, tell Singaporeans, look, this is not right, like the HDB enhancement scheme. Trying to convince voters that this is not right, this is going to get so wrong, and it's not right to actually push the prices of a HDB resale market, whether you resale or BTO, to that level, because it's going to affect your retirement, it's going to affect your grandchildren, it's going to affect so many people. But Singaporeans are just contented to the PAP's propaganda. It took me 10 years, right, just to fight a single issue, the HDB enhancement scheme, which I consider as a scam. Because HDB can never forever increase in value. Whatever LKY says, it will never be, because of the lease decay. Just simple as that. Until only in recent years, right? PAP itself and considered that your HDB flats, the value of HDB flats will be zero when the lease expires. And yet, people are paying over millions of dollars, over $1 million, $1.7 million, the highest in the resale market. It's crazy. It's crazy. Some people is going to get hurt, put it this way. Okay? Really. So, but we are not just talking about certain issues at HDB, right? Like foreign talent policies. We are trying to build a democratic system for our people, whether it's now or in future. Okay. My great respect to Dr. Chee for his sacrifices. And of course, definitely a greatest respect to his family. especially the wife, may. Right? Well, I've spoken to people today, just today. Right? A young, very young chap came, about 30 plus. He was thinking of whether to join the People's Power Party, my party. So he came back to me the second time, and he said he went back and think hard, and he thought that he might not be suitable for politics. I said, why do you say that? Okay. Then he says there are only 4 types of people who join politics. Right? One by one, he says those who are rich, those who have time, right? Those who are intelligent, smart, right? And the last one I do not know. I can't remember. I say rich people will not join politics because most of the rich people have vested interests intertwined with the GLCs or PAP. Okay, so of course there are some very rich people who will still support due to one reason or another, but they will not go to the front. They will not go to the front. Very few people like maybe Paul Tabaya. Very few rich people will do that. Right? They would rather spend their time to make money. Okay? Those who have time, well, no, it's not sustainable. Those who have time, maybe just out of boredom want to try politics, but later on they will quit, they will drop out. I've seen so many of these people throughout the 20 years. Those who are intelligent, smart, I can tell you most of the intelligent and smart people were eventually ended up with this fundamental calculation. The ROI, the return of investment in opposition politics, is actually negative. They would rather join PAP. Very few smart people will want to join opposition just because they are smart. No. Right. I can tell you who are the ones who were sustained in the political journey, even without getting paid, even without any fruitful results. Right? I told a young man, I said, look, only people who realize, who have gone through the awakening process, to realize that this government, there are so many things to be improved for our society, for our nation, for our future generation, were sustained in a political journey, in opposition, in political opposition. Only those people who have really studied through economic policies, all the policies, whether they're legal policies, laws, right, who have seen injustice, because we want to build justice based on justice and equality, remember our pledge, and inequality of treatment to people will be more sustainable in the long term in this political journey. It's not easy, right? Only people with a very strong core values, which they think will be more superior or even better than what PAP is doing right now. Core values, ideology, which we think will make Singapore greater or great again, so-called, will have the conviction to carry on this journey. Or else, people come and go, so many of them, without much conviction, without much belief in what they do, without a vision, without a vision or objective, or without even knowing what they are doing, right? Or only just for being a career politician. These people will leave when there's no money in it. And most people who go in the PAPs, right, how much conviction do they have? Not that I'm saying PAP doesn't have people of conviction. They do, but most of them are the old cadres. I've seen some of them. They are very committed to their ideology, their concept, their belief in what is good for Singapore. Right? Ideological base, not money base, not pay base. PAP does have these people, the old cadres. Right? So, of course, we cannot say who are right or who are wrong, but I can tell you, people like Dr. Chee, if you say you are more patriotic than him, then prove it. Would you actually go on 30 years of low pay, low quality of life, just for political opposition, without getting paid any single cent, just to provide that necessary contest of power upon PAP, to make it work harder, right? To make it move, to make it give more CDC vouchers to all of us. And you do not earn any single cents from this. You're not paid for that. And doing it full time. Okay? Even I can't do full time. Put it that way. That's why I say I only 50%, because I only at most 60% of my time in politics or working hours. If you cannot make that sacrifice, don't say you're more patriotic than Dr. Chee or even me. Right? Not so many people can do that. Make that sacrifice. Most probably your family members or your spouse will actually stop you from doing that. Okay? Now, so congratulations to Dr. Chee, Professor Paul Tambaya, and the Singapore Democratic Party for coming to 44th years of contributing to Singapore construction in progress of democracy in Singapore. Right? And I am very happy to see that SDP have a young slate of people, youngsters, young SDP, who are coming forward to serve not only the party, the Singapore Democratic Party, but eventually to serve the country without getting paid. Okay? We need people like that, right, in a society. Okay? And hopefully, I'm regenerating my party as well, the People's Power Party. I'm recruiting also, right? And with some good recruitments, I've started my 9th anniversary dinner, right? It will be, where's my dinner? It will be at the dinner, Black Society, right? Please support if you can attend. Black Society in Orchard Road, UBS building, right? The tickets are running out very selling like hotcakes. I have about around 20 tickets more, right? $150 and $250, right? Please support us. We are not as established as SDP, definitely, but we are trying our best to provide another avenue for Singapore's democracy. During the dinner, right? During the dinner, well, Professor Paul Tambaya actually talk about this. I actually miss out this news. You see, PAP likes to use POFMA and accuse any other people, right, for misinformation, so-called, right, falsehood, so-called. But do you know, the biggest misinformation operation is actually carried out by another government, the United States of America. This reported in Reuters, right, some time back already. Right? What it says is very simple. Pentagon instructed CIA to run a secret anti-vax campaign to undermine China during the pandemic. Basically, to tell everyone in the world that, oh, the Chinese vaccine, so-called, okay, the Sinovac, right, the inactivated vaccine is no good, it's harmful, blah, 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 and all that. And it's deliberate. It's deliberate misinformation. Okay? Only their mRNA, which is experimental, have not passed any safety standards before, are safe for use. But Chinese one are all kuya. That's what they do. It's not us, people, small political parties like us who are the one who are doing the main source of misinformation. It was the CIA from the United States of America. But did PAP, POFMA, CIA, or the Pentagon, or the United States? No. In fact, it took us quite a while, right, to pressure the PAP government to provide the alternative vaccine, which is not using mRNA. That is the Sinovac and the Sinopharm, right? And people have to pay for the Sinopharm in order to take these alternative vaccines, right? All because of this misinformation operation carried out by the United States. They have vested interest because they want to earn billions for Pfizer and Moderna. They are competitors, so they use underhand tactic. We don't have conflicted interest, seriously. I do not have another vaccine. There's no way, nothing in for me to talk back about any vaccines, whether it's Sinovac, Sinopharm, or the Pfizer or the Moderna. I only speak as far as I know the truth of the vaccines and what are the concerns, the truthful concerns of all these vaccines. Right? In fact, I came to the reasoning that Sinovac and Sinopharm, the inactivated vaccine, right, should be safer than the mRNA, which is untested, have not passed any safety standards before in the past 30 years. And that's actually logical. Right? It's just common sense. Right? But we have been suppressed. The Facebook, whatever things that when we talk anything bad about the mRNA, we are very smeared to be the anti-vaxxer. We are not the anti-vaxxer. We are the safe vaxxer. We want safety first for all vaccine. Right. So, did they use POFMA against them? No. But they prefer the POFMA people who raise issues against their policies. Now, this is the latest POFMA that PAP have put up. against a poor guy. I think he's a Malay property agent, which has a complaint about the uh, ethnic integration program in HDB. Now, most Chinese might not, most Chinese Singaporeans Chinese might not actually understand this because most of the time we are not affected as a majority race. Remember our pledge, regardless of race, language, or religion. But in effect, when it comes to policies like this, it is based on race. Well, we want to be race blind, but our policies are not race blind. Okay? It means that every blocks there's a minimum requirement for it to have a certain percentage of other races, whether it's Malay or Indians, versus the Chinese. Like if the Chinese percentage reach a quota, then the Malay or the Indian HDB owners cannot sell their flats in the resale market to another Chinese buyers, even when they want to buy it. So it created a market of imbalance because there will be fewer Malay and Indian buyers in the market. And therefore, the price will be somehow discounted for the normal price that the Chinese buyers would have offered. Demand and supply, right? Of course, not all will be affected, right? But look, people are complaining about that. In fact, in the POFMA correction order, the minister or the Ministry of National Development actually acknowledged that some people will be affected, but not all. But still, people are affected. And this is a race-based policy. It goes in contradiction to our national pledge, regardless of race, language, or religion. Now, this EIP thing is not new, right? Just because of this poor chap, right, who have got the year wrong for the implementation of EIP. He says it's 1969. No, it's not. Right? It's in the 1980s. Right? It was in the 1980s they started to do this. Okay? To implement it. But just because he have one quite a minor mistake in his video, TikTok video, which went viral. That is very important. Right? Went viral. Then he kena POFMA. Right? So he didn't use words carefully. Yes, there are people who are affected, but not all. But he said the minority race are all affected. That's why it's wrong. The phrasing is different. But I can tell you, throughout the decades that I'm in politics, opposition politics, almost all minority race, whether it's Malays or Indian friends, that came to me to talk about HDB policies, to talk about this EIP, they all complain about that. Okay? Of course, in this lengthy POFMA correction, right, there are a lot of explanation done by the ministers or the ministries, this and that. But I can tell you, the fundamental problem is this. No matter how you look at it, whether it's disadvantaged the minority or disadvantaged the Chinese, which he tried to say, oh, we're actually those very hot places, right, in town buildings, they actually have 100% of applicants for the Malay or the minority race, right, to go and select the flats as compared of 40% of Chinese applicants, right, because of the quota. So it actually benefits the minority. That's their argument. But if it benefits the minority, that means what? The Chinese is actually but not fair to them, right? If you do a balloting, which is race blind, then it's by virtue of luck, right? Balloting through certain weightage, right? Based on family income, or based on what your age, or based on your first time or second time, that's fair. But you're based on race. Race is something that you cannot select. You're born with it. Correct? Now, the key thing is this. Whichever race you come from, when you go for a BTO, you pay the same price, right? Don't tell me that you sell to the Chinese at a higher price and you sell to the minority at a lower price. No, everybody pay the same price. But the truth is, when you want to sell it in the open market, right? When the EIP kicks in and applied, sometimes the minority race will be disadvantaged because they will end up knowing that they cannot sell to the Chinese, the open market, to anyone, but only to the minority in Malay or Indian. And that restrict the demand, people that they can sell to. And definitely, in comparison, they might just benefit as well in very good mature estate or in town places. But in relative terms, they pay the same price in the BTO, but why would you expect them to have differential in the resale pricing? And that is inequality. Basically, due to the race-based policies that affect an inequality. It might not always happen, but it happens, right? This EIP thing, the People's Power Party will have a solution to it. I've spoken to a good friend, right? He's an Indian. But he's a progressive Indian. He said that when can we be a race-blind society? Policy should not be based on race. That's what he's saying. Right? There are many ways of dealing with this issue. But this EIP, the current EIP policies, is basically outdated. Okay? I will touch more on this in future. The EIP, what I think about these EIP policies. Should it be totally scrapped? Should we be modified? How should it be modified? Okay? But whatever it is, I reject. I definitely do not agree with the current EIP policies. It is a market distortion. When you have market distortion, that means some people will gain, some people will lose. And the market will not be efficient. For PAP who always believe in the market forces, whatever things are also market forces, why suddenly they would have overlooked this? I cannot understand. We should have studied the same economics books, right? Or economics concept. Right? So this is one key issue that we need to address. We cannot pretend that it is a non-issue. We cannot pretend that it is a non-issue. We cannot pretend that there are no people are affected by it. And in fact, MND acknowledged that there are people who are affected by it. And they gave The answer is, oh, they can sell back to the ministry or the HDB at the market price, so-called. But the market price determination is how? If the market price is going to be determined by a distorted market, it's still a distortion, right? A valuation based on a distorted market is still a distortion. It's a distorted valuation. It doesn't solve the fundamental problem of inequality. Okay? So I know Singaporeans do not like complex issues, and I happen to be one who likes to deal with complex and difficult issues. HDB is actually a very complex and difficult issues, and no politician want to touch about all the nitty-gritties and all the seemingly incongruence, right, or incomplete or illogical sometimes system that they have. But I'm game for that. And of course, I'm Goh Ming Sing. HDB is always my pet issue. Okay. All right. So let's move on. And of course, I hope PAP don't anyhow suka go and POFMA people lah. Will this issue undermine the government? No. But it just point out the incongruence of the PAP's policy. Right? Of course, it will affect PAP's vote bank, definitely. But look at it. Even without this property agent raising it as an issue, all the minority race will know about this issue. It's just like the emperor's clothes, invisible clothes. This poor guy is just the one who point, hey, your policy got problem. Well, other people already know. It's just that most of the Chinese would not know about these problems that our Malays or the Indians, fellow citizens, are facing in the past, right? Because it doesn't affect us most of the time. I think 90% of the time, 99% of the time, right? Right. Very complex issue, but I'll touch on it when the time comes. Right. So we are going back to this. The Income and Allianz saga, it continues. Mr. Tan Kim Lian, a good friend of mine, right, whom I have supported him for the presidential contest. I've been waiting for him to make noise, or rather speak up about this income, the NTUC Income, which they want to sell it to a foreign company called Allianz. I've been waiting for many days. I was wondering why he didn't actually put a comprehensive views about that. Okay, so finally he raised the issue, and not only raised the issue, he actually wrote to NTUC Enterprise, who actually owns the bulk of the shares of Income, right? Which previously was called the NTUC Income. It had been corporatized. That means it used to be a cooperative, but becomes a private company. Okay, now the key issue is this. The key issue, I feel that Mr. Tan Kim Lian has every right and more weight to talk about the sale. Why? Now, I supported Kim Lian for presidency because I know he was a PAP man before. I'm not totally against PAP people, definitely. What okay? Who can work, who cannot work, who wayang, right? Who are mediocre. I I have my judgment. Rightfully or wrongfully, I do not put them as the same. Okay? I will not say all PAP people are bad. No, definitely not. There are some good ones. Right? And Kim Lian is somebody whom I respected. First, as a PAP guy, back then, right, he dared to speak up, to write to the Straits Times Forum, to point out some of the obvious failings of the PAP, his own party. Right? I think it takes a lot of courage to do that. And he was still the CEO of the NTUC Income. And he spent 30 years in NTUC Income to build it from scratch. You know, as a few actuaries, that means people who study about actuarial science and actuarial mathematics. Right? He was the one who built NTUC Income from scratch. Although Dr. Goh Keng Swee was the one who had this idea started to incorporate income. But who built it up? Right? As to lead the charge is actually Mr. Tan Kim Lian. It's not easy. Definitely not easy. It's a very steep learning curve. Right? Because in Singapore back then, there aren't not many very much talent in it. You have to just to search your way through to build a company like that. Right? And for the 30 years, income has grown, NTUC income has grown quite substantially until he retires. Right? So for anyone who want to sell NTUC Income, right, which is largely the fruits of his foundation. The foundation of NTUC Income is largely due to Mr. Tan Kim Lian. So he has a greater say in whatsoever. Right? It is easy to sell away companies, I explained before. PAP, so-called the Kiang one, all those scholars and all that, you call them scholars and all that, right? Kim Lian wasn't really a scholar, so to speak, right? All those scholars Kiang one, Kiang Simi, NOL, National Steel, Net Steel, right? FNN, they couldn't actually make it bigger. And the easiest way out, or some of them are actually making loss under their leadership or management. The easier way out is, of course, sell it off. And most of these entities are, once they sell off, boom, the company better. Why? Why under Singaporeans scholars were groomed from a server PSC cannot do well, but under other people's management, it can do well. It's rubbish. It's pure incompetence. And does it mean that our scholar system actually fails? I hope not, but it seems to be so. Right? So, Kim Lian is a person who runs a company like Income with a vision and with a very strong core value. He will stick, or rather, he has stuck to the value of serving the people as a social enterprise, a cooperative, and nothing more. Okay? The idea is to provide cheap and affordable insurance for the masses. Right? That's why I say in PAP, there are still people with core values. strong social core values, right? But most of them are actually quite old already, and they are not in a position of power or influence, and that's too bad. And that's going to be the downfall of PAP if this carries on. When what PAP leaders always concern is how to make more money, right? Or make people pay and pay. How to monetize anything, everything, and lay long everything once they cannot make it good. This is a very bad core value. It's not a core value at all. Right? It's mercenary. Okay? And talking about making big money, right? Mr. Tan, the second NTUC CEO, Tan Sui Chin, wrote to MAS. Anyway, Mr. Tan Kim actually wrote to NAS also. Wrote to NTUC Enterprise, right? Raising the concern of selling to Allianz, because Allianz, not only Allianz have been making losses, okay, accumulated losses. Allianz also being fined in the US court, right, United States courts, for fraudulent management, right, in the billions. I think paid a fine of don't know how many billions, 6 billions. Right? So integrity is very important in financial system or financial institution. So he raised issue that, are you sure you want to sell our good companies like Income to a company that is known to be fraudulent in their dealings in the United States? And there are risks because the assets that Income has or managing are the assets accumulated through the policyholders. So all the policyholders' interest is at stake. If there's a mismanagement, all the policyholders will be affected. That is what Mr. Tan Kim has been talking about, and wrote to NTUC Enterprise, who owns the majority share of Income now. So Mr. Tan, another Tan, coincidentally another Tan Sui Che, the second CEO, CEO raised the concern. He says that NTUC Enterprise have increased their shares in NTUC Income, right? Quite a lot, at par value of $10. So now he want to sell the Allianz per shares $40. So NTUC Enterprise will be, in fact, making a lot of money through these sales. So is this the main motive, so-called, right, in selling the stake to Allianz, a foreign company? And by this injection of a capital by NTUC Enterprise, it says that all other shareholders, the minority shareholders, do not have such option. But NTUC Enterprise have such option to buy at par value, which is actually undervalued. Par value means not the true value, right? Par value is the initial value, so to speak, right? Not the assets value, the net tangible assets value, which is much cheaper lah, right? They are buying the shares of this NTUC Income at a cheaper price. Now they sell high, so it's actually there's no moral ethics, right? It gives people the feeling that it's actually planned. Or I want to sell already, I inject capital at below the value of the company, buy more shares, as many shares as possible, 630 million. Wow, NTUC Enterprise a lot of money. Okay, now sort of a triple amount that they have injected, because they pay $10 one now, you are selling $40, right? Net profit is $30 per share. That's 3 times of your par value, the price that you paid, right? Is it ethical? While the minority shareholders doesn't have that luxuries or option to do the same, but their shares have been diluted in that sense. So it seems that they only knows how to make more money by these technicalities, right? Instead of making NTUC bigger, making the pie bigger to benefit everyone, right? There's a bigger controversy that the second CEO have raised. All in all, what's in for everyone? Actually, 我们只是看戏而已啦, right? Because it's a private entity. But remember, we want to build a nation regardless of language or religion, race, language, or religion. To build a society, a nation based on, to have justice and equality. Are they treating the minority shareholders equally? So come back to my theme today. It's National Day period, right? National Day celebration period, month. It is time for us to rethink what we want for our nation. Do we want our nation to divert from its original path of the Republic? Or to set the record straight, to keep whoever in power, to make the nation goes towards what it is supposed to do. What we have a social contract as a people, as a nation, have committed ourselves to build a democratic society, a full functioning democracy, without all these funny laws, draconian laws, right? That is basically power grabs to make us into a police state instead of a democracy, which ignore the biggest misinformation operations from CIA while using the POFMA as a weapon against anyone who criticized the PAP's policy which went viral, or who is a threat to the power base. Not a threat to the nation, okay, but the threat to the PAP instead. When they want the POFMA to be enacted, right, they have a consultation, wayang consultation, I call it, right? They'll give people all the promises, this will not be abused. Only when the issues is not just about falsehood, because there are too many. A lot of people do not know what is truth in the first place, right? Because there's no transparency. Most of the time, information are not transparent, and you do not expect anyone to comment about anything. Every time must go and check, fact check everything. Where can call lah, right? That's not what POFMA should be. It's only when it undermines the country. What is undermining the country? Undermining the country's security, national security. then you use POFMA. Not anyone suka simi sai ma POFMA. Right? That should not be the way. That to me is a total abuse of the POFMA. Everything can come up with a very grand justification of why we want a POFMA law. But when it comes to execution, okay, everything is lost. This is the state of democracy in Singapore. In fact, we are in regression. We need more people like Dr. Chee, who have the conviction to carry on this battle, to create a democratic society for Singapore. And in fact, when I look at Dr. Chee, he actually aged a lot. He's over 60 plus already. And in his speech, I can sense that he wanted people to take over. Right? He raised his 2 lieutenants, right? Brian Lim and Jufrey, 2 young chaps. Actually, they are not that young, okay? They're not that young. But at least there's certain succession plan. Right? And I'm also getting old. Okay? I don't have a long runway, so called. I don't plan to do politics until I'm 80 years old. Never. It will not be my plan. I also want people to take over, pass the baton. And I just happened to talk to James Gomez, right? My buddy in Workers' Party back then. We fought together in the 2006 election in Aljunied. Right? In fact, I met another activist, not in the front line. We were talking about Dr. Wong Wei Nam. All of us, these people, we only have one thing in mind. We want renewal. Regardless of your party affiliation. We want to pass on our experience, share our experience, right, to the young ones. In fact, James was talking to me that you want to have a training program, right, or seminar for young politicians or the young activists, right, to share our experience and what to do and what not to do, what are the pitfalls. Some of the experience are very expensive because we paid for it, right, with our reputation or risk our life or risk our or jail term or whatever, or being charged, right? So these are valuable experience. So we are not particularly into our own small-mindedness. Right? In fact, I've been doing training for newer activists who want to be a candidate. I've done that for the Allianz, the People's Alliance for Reform. Right? We are willing to share, but will they be willing, youngsters, to come forward? That is our challenge. Thank you very much for watching, and hope that you could join me in the upcoming dinner on the 16th of August. And buy our tickets early because we have very limited tickets left. Right. Good night.